But as we got here, energy equals skill. And so over the weekend, I've been watching Physical 100. And I don't know if you guys have watched this or not yet on Netflix. It's actually pretty good. But it's basically 100 very, what would you call them? Very strong, very athletic people from, I think it's Korea. And they play these different competitions and they get down to one person. They start with 100 of them, Physical 100, and they get down. So they do all these different competitions. And I was watching it on the weekend, and a couple of things I noted. The first one was that there was a guy doing pull-ups. That was one of the competitions, is how many pull-ups you could do in 1 minute. And the guy did like 55 pull-ups in 1 minute. And everybody in the crowd, everybody, all the competition, all the competitors there were just in awe of this guy, that he did 55 pull-ups in 1 minute. And they see that. People on TV, they see this guy doing 55 pull-ups in 1 minute. And you think, wow, that guy's an absolute specimen. I can't believe he can do that. But that's all that you see. You didn't see the work. You didn't see the hours and days and weeks and months and years that he's put in to doing that and building his body in a way that he could do that. You don't see any of that. And so people always assume that it just happens naturally with people, and that's not the case. It's not the case. Similar to Bitcoin mining, proof of work is required in any aspect of life. And actually, the other part of the Physical 100 that I saw that I think that people should be paying attention to is the fact that I think there was about 30 women on there, 30 or 40 women and 60 males. It might have been 50-50. Anyways, I'm down to like the top 20 here. And I think there's one woman left. And all these challenges that they've been doing are mostly very physical. And I was watching it with Bridge last night, my girlfriend, and she's like, why are they doing these competitions? Why are they all so strength focused? It just goes to show how different the male body is compared to the female body. She said that. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's why I'm so against all this stuff that's happening with the women's sports in terms of guys dressing up as women and competing in women's sports. It's just not fair. And it should be a crime that they're allowing these men to compete against these women just because they identify as that. And that goes back to the Dave Smith stuff that he was talking about in terms of how dumb everything is right now. But it's just like people are starting to realize this, how little things actually make sense. And it's not about this or that. It's reality. The fact that a male's body is built much differently than a women's body. And if you put them up against strength competitions, whether it's rugby, hockey, anything, if you're competing as a male body versus a female, it's very dangerous. And so she acknowledged that last night. I mean, she's kind of much less on the spectrum here than I am, but she realized that. And I think that we need more of that kind of reality in the world. Anyways, that was just an aside. So kind of the point of today and what I wanted to get at here is not only explain like the proof of work protocol and how it all works and why Bitcoin is going to be the one that wins here, but I really want you to start thinking about things in your life. Look at things as a Bitcoin cycle. Forget years. Forget years. Start thinking about everything in terms of 4-year cycles, because you can't do anything in a year. And I think that we've been kind of not brainwashed, but we've been told to think in terms of years. And I challenge you to think about this today. Think about one good thing in the world that was built in 1 year. And you might say a house. Your house might have been built in 1 year. But houses should take a very long time to build. And buildings should take a very long time to build. The reason why they take so quick to be built now is because all the materials and everything is just garbage. And that's a society that we've kind of been thrown into here and been born into in a lot of ways. And we were talking about building a deck yesterday and how different it is, and cabinets, and how shitty our wood has gotten through the years. And this is just kind of a microcosm of the fiat world. But if you look at wood from like 50, 60, 70 years ago and how well it holds up compared to the wood that we have now, the only reason our wood and the materials that we use to build things don't last as long is because it's garbage. They need to keep prices down So they need to use cheaper materials to produce those materials, cheaper ingredients to produce those materials. And that's kind of where we are today. So I think that going forward, this is something that we really need to be. Yeah, exactly. Aaron Haywood, the houses now in the US and probably anywhere on earth are built in less than 6 months, made with glue and silly putty. And I really want people to start applying this whole long-term proof of work focus to your life. And I think that you're going to get you're going to have much better results in your life, whatever you're trying to achieve. But start thinking about things in 4 years instead of just 1 year. I really challenge you to do that today. Think about one thing good in life that was built in 1 year. And a couple comparisons I like to make here is that if you think about the dynasties of the world, and there's countries out there like the Chinese, they think in like 50 years, 100 years, 150 years. They do everything. They move very slowly, but that's their long-term view there. And that's how they've advanced so much compared to us, because they think in 50 years, 100 years, 150 years, the dynasties. Whereas here, our politicians switch every 4 years. They do as much damage as they can. They make as many promises as they can. They hardly follow through with any of them. And then some other dipshit comes into the Oval Office and tries to change things again in 4 years for a whole country, for everybody in that population. So with Bitcoin, whatever you're trying to accomplish right now in life, that could be losing 20 pounds. That could be getting to 1 Bitcoin. That could be becoming a scratch golfer. It could be any of that. Don't focus on year to year. Focus on 4 or 5 years at a time and just see what happens. I know it's hard because we only have so many 5-year increments in our life, but I think that just goes to show how important it is to have a goal and a direction to be going in there, because you don't want to waste 5 years, right? You want to have a goal that you're going towards and take all of your time and energy working towards that. And after 4 or 5 years, you're going to be absolutely blown away by how much you actually accomplish there. And the other one here is the Canada Golf. There was the Canadian Open over the weekend here. There was last year, it was won by Nick Taylor, the first time in 60 years a Canadian won the Canadian Open. So Nick Taylor won. And then this year we had 2 or 3 Canadians actually in the top 10. And why this is relevant is because there's a guy named Derek Ingram here in Canada, one of the famous golf teachers here. We actually had him on the podcast. I think it was last year. But I specifically remember this. He was talking about a 12-year plan that they had. As Golf Canada, the Canadian golfers, they had a 12-year plan where they're slowly 1% every single day. That's kind of their mentality, 1% a day. And they're not trying to do everything in one summer or one season. They're not basing their results off of one golf season, 12 years. And if you look at Golf Canada and the Canadian golfers in the PGA right now, today versus 12 or 15 years ago, it's night and day. So just apply this to every single aspect of your life. Know that you have to put in the work and you have to think in longer time frames, and just make sure that you know where you're going to. I really want to drill this into everybody's head here in terms of this, the people who watch this show, is stop thinking in years. Start thinking in Bitcoin cycles, because it's going to change everything about you. Your focus, where you put your energy, your goals, how you set your goals, how bigger your goals can actually be over 5 years. The shitty thing about our society now is that everybody just wants a quick overnight thing, overnight success, win the lottery, whatever it is. And if you don't, so you set a goal every January 1st, and then January 1st rolls around quickly the next year, and you didn't hit any of your goals, and you get very frustrated. And then you take a couple of years off setting goals because you didn't come close to setting your goal that you had for 1 year there. But if you look at it over 5 years and you just get 1% better every single day, I think that's how we should be looking at it now.